one was the square root of 56. So we want to simplify that. Oh. Hold on, let me see if I can. So we want to see if we can simplify that, okay? Okay, so we have to know if it's simplified. Well, is it? Well, again, we have to look at the factors of 56. Now, if we look at the factors of that, of 56, okay, well, we have 1, we have 2, we have 4, and really there we can stop. I mean, there's more factors, of course, but 4 alone is a perfect square. And of course, 4 is not equal to 1. So that tells us it's not simplified. So we can simplify it. So it's not simplified. That's great. So what do we do next? What we're going to do now is we're going to simplify it. Okay. Well, 56, we have to factor the 4 out. And of course, what's left over is you divide. I mean, you probably know what the other factor is. It's just 14. You know, you can get that easily from a calculator. So we have 4 times 14. So using that process for factoring, let me make the screen, bring the screen up a bit. There we go. So everyone can see. So using that, we get the square root of 56 is the square root of 4 times 14, which of course is the square root of 4 times the square root of 14. And the square root of 4 we have seen, right? That's equal to 2. The square root of 4, excuse me. So we have 2 times the square root of 14. But we're not done yet. We have to know, is the square root of 14 simplified? So that's what we have to figure out. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, first I gotta move the screen down a bit so everyone can see. There we go. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, what are the factors of 14? Well, we have 1, right? We have 2, we have 7, and 14. And I think that's actually it. So because of that, right? Because of that, the only factor of 14 that's a perfect square is just 1, right? 1, let me see if I can make that nicer. There we go. 1 is the only factor of 14 that is a perfect square. I was like, hey, that's good. Well, because of that, 2, 7, and 14 are not perfect squares, so this is simplified. So the square root of 14 is simplified. So that tells us that we're done. Basically, we get this. Okay, so that's what we get. Okay, so that's good. That's one example. Now, let me see, what was the next one? The next one I think was, what was it? The square root of 40. Okay, so let's now do the next example, which is this. Oh, sorry, you can't see that. Let me move it up. Well, the square root of 40, you probably know already that this is not going to be simplified. How do we know that? Well, if you look at the factors of 40, okay, we have 1, we have 2, we have 4, right? Again, 4 is a factor that is a perfect square, besides 1. So it's not simplified. What do? We simplify it. We get 40 is 4 times I mean, technically you do 40 over 4. I mean, this step this 40 over 4 part, you can skip that on an exam or something. I just like to show steps, all the steps I mean. So we get 4 times 10. Okay, that's good. So from there, we get the square root of 40 is the square root of 4 times 10, which is the square root of 4, square root of 10. And we know that's equal to 2 times square root of 10. You know, square root of 4 we know is 2. But what about the 10, though? Is the square root of 10 simplified? Well, it turns out the answer is yes, it is. And why is that? Well, it's easy to show. We just have to look at its factors. We just move that up a bit. Uh-oh. There we go. Whiteboard. Microsoft Whiteboard. So from here, we get the factors of 10, right? What do we get? We get 1, we have 2, 5, and 10. So the only factor of 10 that's a perfect square is 1. So because of that, the square root of 10 is simplified. So this is simplified. Oh, there we go. I don't know, for some reason it made a square here. I don't know why that happened, but whatever. Anyway, so we get the square root of 40 is 2 radical 10. Okay, that's good. Okay, I hope that makes sense. There's another one I want to do. Let's see, what is that? The square root of 45. Okay, so let's do that one. Okay. So now we have our next one, which is the square root of 45. Okay. Now, so again, we want to know, is this simplified? Well, we need the factors of it. 45, right? Well, that's, what are the, wait, let me just write it out. Factors of 45. Okay, let me just move this over a bit. There we go. Good. So the factors of 45 are 1, 3, 5. We have 9. And you could keep going if you want to. But really, that's enough. Because we know that 9, right, is a perfect square. And of course, it's not 1. So this is not simplified. Okay, let's simplify it. So we know that 45 is equal to 9 times 5. And so from there, we get the square root of 45 is the square root of 9 times 5, which of course is square root of 9 times the square root of 5. We already saw that the square root of 9 is 3. So this is what we get. And we already saw that the square root of 5 is simplified. So what we're going to, so we do actually stop here. Let me just, okay, so we stop there. Let me just, okay. Okay, let me